Sup Trojans, alright, a lot to talk about, but only because it's been a month. I decided to start my channel at, well, the best time in terms of, I got to make a couple of videos before the draft, but the worst time considering right after the draft there's nothing to talk about. So things like the Kyler Murray get talked about, even though in my opinion it wasn't much of a story. I mean, he's just the second highest paid quarterback ever in terms of some stat. Like a yearly salary, because his average was like 46 million. I was like, yeah, not a big story, whatever, nothing crazy. That's market rate for a quarterback of his caliber at this point. Someone was going to pay him that if it wasn't the Cardinals, so they pretty much had to do it. It's whatever. And then the whole thing about the 4 hours of film study a week comes out. and and then because the media was going crazy about it, they removed it from the contract, which made it an even bigger deal. And then Kyler Murray was like so annoyed by it, but now like it's removed from the contract. But honestly, at this point, you were better off leaving it in the contract, because now if he has a bad game, he throws one interception week one. Oh, forget about it. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, he didn't get his 4 hours of film in. Oh gosh, I actually kind of like the Cardinals, but I think that'll work itself out. But that was kind of a stupid thing to do. Like, you either put that in the contract and you kind of leave it there, you let that be, or you just don't do it in the first place. Like, if it was an issue, then just say like, we just, we want to have a baseline there. I feel like that should have stayed, honestly, and they should have come up with some excuse of like, no, we just wanted like a baseline. I mean, we're paying the guy $46 million a year. We feel like there should be a minimum. I mean, I guess it is an insult in a way to have it be contractually obligated to have the 4 hours a week, but it was in the contract. Presumably he read the contract and then signed it. So if it was an issue, it should have been an issue before he signed the contract. So the whole thing's still pretty weird. But all right, back to the Giants, right? That's the only other major news story I can think of off the top of my head there. So Giants are doing training camp. From what I can tell, it's going okay. Kayvon Thibodeau, I just saw an interview with him. I mean, it's from like a couple days ago, but he is awesome. He is a great. I mean, he seems in his element. He's fit in really well. Some of his initial interviews, he was good. He was really good, but the most recent one was great. He's really in his element here. Now he's getting used to everything, and these guys, they just ooze of like loving the new system, loving everything about it. Like Joe Judge had that right away, but in 2021, it kind of faded a bit because they were doing bad. Like in 2020, they would get questions of like, "Oh, you guys like kind of suck. You mad about that?" And they're like, "No, we're working as a team. We're making progress." And, in 2020, that was kind of true. A lot of the games were close when they lost, even, but they were kind of like boring to watch close. I think this team will be fun to watch close. Like, more sacks will be generated, more interceptions, but then, Daniel Jones might be throwing a couple more interceptions, which inevitably might cost us the game. But if he's throwing 4 interceptions and 5 touchdowns, that's kind of fun to watch instead of him throwing 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, which isn't fun to watch and sucks. So I'm hoping that's just the vibe I'm getting from this, is that the entire, both schemes, both sides are going to be like really aggressive. I mean, we have the Kansas City Chiefs offense and the Ravens defense, theoretically. So that was bound to happen, but it feels like that's what's happening based on the interviews and everything I'm seeing coming out of the Giants, on the website and all that stuff. But the players seem to be doing all right. Darnay Holmes has some turnovers, and if some guy's picking them off, Daniel Jones throwing them. But I mean, Daniel Jones for the last couple of years has been Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was Danny Dimes for a couple games in 2019. We need to see Danny Dimes again. All right, Daniel Jones is going to get cut from this team at the end of the year. Danny Dimes is going to get franchise tagged at the end of the year. So if we see Danny Dimes again, this could be a really fun season. If we see Daniel Jones again, that might still be a fun season if the defense is good and Saquon's good. I think it could be a fun season, but the Giants aren't going to do that good, and Daniel Jones will be gone. But if Danny Dimes show up, this could be a really fun season. The Giants could have like one of those 9-8 records. Sneak, maybe division's not great, but maybe sneak in the playoffs at 9-8. You probably could, just because the NFC East isn't looking so hot right now. Because Dallas traded a lot, and the Eagles have a pretty good roster. I mean, if you think about it, and then ignore the quarterback position, because Jalen Hurts, he's not like a pocket like thrower. He's not a great thrower. He's a great runner. Look, I'm not a Jalen Hurts film expert, but just, and this is, probably stupid to base my entire opinion of a guy off of one game, but just looking at him in that Eagles game with the Giants last year, where he threw all those interceptions, and look, happens to be the picture I'm using in this video. That's crazy. Anyway, those two teams in Washington, Carson Wentz isn't going to take them to a Super Bowl. I doubt it. He couldn't even take Philly to a Super Bowl. How's he going to take Washington to a Super Bowl? So, well, it wasn't his fault that he couldn't take Philly to a Super Bowl. But, it was Nick Foles that took him to the Super Bowl and won it for him. So, and then, that was crazy. That was crazy that they didn't think to do something better with Nick Foles. They just kind of let him sit as a backup for another season. And then the same thing happened again. Almost happened again, but Alshon Jeffrey dropped a pass. I was so happy when he did that. So, back to the Giants again. I think we're going to see another season of Daniel Jones. But it's going to be like Daniel Jones Dimes. He's going to hyphenate. And it's going to be like one of those seasons again where we're just going to be like, okay, so what do we have in this guy? Like, should we cut him? Should we tag him? Like, what do we do? And it's going to be like one of those seasons. Because I think the Giants will be like 7-10, but I think Daniel Jones will be like mediocre. Like, he might throw like 30 touchdowns and have like 20 interceptions is what I'm thinking. And then to me, that's like one of those seasons where it's like, okay, we could probably find anybody to do this. What do we do? And if the Giants are 7-10, you're not in the best position in the draft, but you're also not in the worst position. You're in a really weird middle ground position. Like, you probably could trade 3 first-round picks, move up and get a quarterback you think will be great. But you're also in a weird spot where it's like Daniel Jones Dimes wasn't bad. So, like, you could just kind of franchise tag him and let him have another year in the system and see if he goes up to 40 touchdowns in a year. And if he goes up to 40 touchdowns in a year and leads the Giants deep into the playoffs, well, then you have a contract negotiation on your hands. And I'd rather have a $25-30 million a year contract negotiation on my hands than have to give up, 27 years of first-round picks to get a guy. Now, if Daniel Jones takes us to a Super Bowl and asks for $50 million, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, bro. Like, what are we doing here? But the defense, they had Xavier McKinney calling plays. Now, like, on the offense, I think it's a good idea to have the quarterback calling plays. I think the quarterback should be involved in that play calling, unless it's like a rookie quarterback. I think a rookie kind of just needs to like absorb play calls as they come in. But a sophomore quarterback, like if you expect your quarterback to be a guy for any period of time, I think he should have some input in the play calling. So it makes sense that for like warm-ups, they would let Daniel Jones call some plays. But I find it very interesting that they let Xavier McKinney on the defense call some plays. Now, I mean, I think a lot of people have theorized this on the defense, but I think Xavier Mckinney is going to be a cornerstone of this defense. And it makes me really happy because, one, I have his jersey signed, and two, I happen to pick it, as the thumbnail for this video, so that's really great. And I really like Xavier McKinney. I mean, I was so happy when we made that pick because he definitely had a lot of hype going in the draft. I thought Dallas in 2020 was going to pick Xavier McKinney. I think they had the 17th pick. They ended up picking CeeDee Lamb. And I was like, oh, the second Dallas didn't take him, I was like, oh, he could fall. And I was so excited when he fell into the second round, and I was even more excited when the Giants actually got to pick him. And, that rough first season with the injury, but second season, he came out swinging as well as anyone could have hoped for in really his rookie season. He did great in 2022. He did great in 2020 as well. I think he's going to do great in 2022, the 2022 season. Because last year, he was really good. He had some highs with the interception, but he also did have a couple lows. Definitely, there was some room to improve. And so if he becomes more consistent, maybe like not allowing a couple things to go past him, work on, I think he had some tackling issues, so work on those a bit. I think he could be a really great cornerstone of this defense, and I'm really glad that the coaching staff has seen that in him and is able to trust him to, call some plays and warm-ups, because that's likely going to translate to some scenario in a game. I think, you would imagine the middle linebacker. We still have Blake Martinez, right? Is Blake Martinez... I would assume Blake Martinez is expected to be the middle linebacker and play, but for whatever reason he goes down again, or if I think the likely scenario is they just don't plan on having Blake Martinez come back, so they want to have Xavier McKinney start to be the guy. I think that makes a good amount of sense. I think that makes a lot of sense if they don't want Blake Martinez to be the guy. So you might as well start marking Xavier McKinney as the cornerstone of this defense. Start penciling him in for that $20 million a year contract for 5 years, when that's up, because this coaching staff has faith in him, and I think he's going to come through for this defense next season and the season after that and the season after that and the season after that. Now, one more guy before I leave is Saquon Barkley. He's another guy in Daniel Jones' shoes, but he, I think, is almost at even more of an uphill battle to stay on this team. Now, obviously, you would have fifth-yeared him. He's a great running back, so why would you not fifth-year the guy? But he's been through a lot, and he's a running back. That is not a great combination. All right, wide receivers, have shown that they can come back from pretty bad injuries. Odell did it from 2017 and 2018, and I think he tore his ACL again on the Browns, came back. He just won a Super Bowl with the Rams. Like, congrats. I think he tore his ACL again in the Super Bowl. That is insane. Wide receivers can come back from injuries. It's really tough for a running back to come back. And especially in this day and age, running backs are expected to do really a lot more than, in the past, right? So in the past, you could have, the bell cow back, but that's just because that guy was running the ball. Now we expect running backs to play receiver, running back. I think a couple teams here soon might start expecting their running back to play quarterback. Oh, right, that's already Taysom Hill. So running backs are asked to do a lot today. And so it makes it really tough when a guy like Saquon is really good but injury-prone. But if Saquon can manage to stay healthy for 17 games, put up his Rookie of the Year numbers again, I think the Giants have to at least franchise tag him. Again, hesitant to sign either Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley, but I would absolutely love to see them franchise tagged again. And then, honestly, I'd franchise tag Saquon and then just franchise tag him for the rest of his career. After that, sign him to a 3-year deal with the ability to get out after 2. If you don't want to franchise tag him, because that's just what you have to do with running backs. These huge running back contracts for 5 years, they don't work. But I think a 2-year deal could, or a 2-3 year deal could work, because they're normally good for like a season or two after that, and then it starts to fall apart. I think the Christian McCaffrey one start to fall apart a little quick because of injury. But that's just the thing with running backs. They have a very short shelf life, and they're very susceptible to injuries. It's the unfortunate truth about that position. It's why I have a lot of respect for the running back position, the guys that are able to stand in there and, against all odds, stay healthy and put up numbers. Like a guy like Derrick Henry, comes to mind first. And like a lot of the running back greats of the past, really. A lot of the modern running backs, they put up a great season or two, and then it starts to fall apart. That's unfortunately the case with Saquon Barkley. I hope he's able to bounce back. Giants looking good overall. Looking good, not great. A lot to improve on. It's tough to judge anything without pads on, but I mean, just the fact that they're loving the system and they're getting some fundamentals down, and that the new coach has come in here, and Brian Daboll, he's acting more like a player's coach. I think that's what the Giants needed at this point. You want your next coach to be sort of the opposite of your last coach. So like it was almost a mistake in some ways to go from like Ben McAdoo to Pat Shurmur, because I think they had similar like styles of what they wanted to do. Both offensive coordinators, both attempting to just be like just general like kind of nice guys. Just casual guys, it was like, coach the football team, like great play there, Eli. I feel like that's what they were like there to do. And then obviously Pat Shurmur, I feel like was put in a bad situation. Ben McAdoo, I think, made the situation worse, which is why I feel like Ben McAdoo failed himself. Like, Ben McAdoo is the reason why Ben McAdoo failed. Pat Shurmur, in a way, was set up to fail, but Pat Shurmur could have been a way, way better head coach, which inevitably is why he got fired. And then, so you bring in Joe Judge, right? Who's like the complete opposite, disciplinarian, special teams guy. Doesn't work. Or, kind of worked in 2020, but it didn't seem to work long term. Because then the second things don't start turning around in 2021, it starts to get bad. So now Brian Daboll seems like the kind of guy, he doesn't seem like Pat Shurmur in the way that Pat Shurmur was very casual. Now, Brian Daboll seems like very casual, but I mean on the podium. Pat Shurmur is very casual on the podium. Brian Daboll does have like a sense of confidence and urgency on the podium, but it doesn't feel like prepared statements like Judge. It's kind of that middle ground. I think that's what the Giants needed. And speaking 2-3 years down the road, which at this point, right, you have the general manager and the head coach. These guys are as a tandem now. I don't think we're going to have the thing like we had with Dave Gettleman. But there is a scenario, 3 years down the road where, things might fall apart with Brian Daboll. I don't actually see that one happening. I think Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are the guys we should have gotten in 2015 when we were looking, or should have been looking for both positions. You get rid of the head coach, you got to get rid of the GM, especially after that long of a period of time. You just have to do it. Unless of course, your GM is like a legend, drafted you, 2 Super Bowls, but Jerry Reese really only drafted 1 Super Bowl and was falling apart. I mean, like, recently drafted Super Bowls and your head coach retires. Or your head coach is horrible at play calling and you make it to the playoffs and you're like, okay, we're making it to the playoffs like every year and our head coach is play calling us out of it. You keep the GM, maybe. Different scenarios. Let's not look forward to another GM and head coach search. I'm pretty confident in Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen as of right now. Really excited for the upcoming 2022 season. And going back to my first video, I think we're going to see the 2018 Giants with a better record. I think this is the sort of team that works. It's the sort of team that has an image. We're rebuilding. We're not doing this wishy-washy stuff we did in 2018 where it's like, all right, we got to build around Eli, and we got to tear apart this part of the team, and patchwork here. We have Joe Shane has a plan this time. There's a plan in place. The team's definitely rebuilding. You can't rebuild overnight, so you got to keep some of the star guys. And if some of the star guys, a.k.a. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, hopefully Danny Dimes and Saquad's Barkley, hopefully they show up and we keep them around for a little bit longer and really get to see what they're made out of. And then hopefully they're able to stick around for the Super Bowls. But we'll see. Catch you guys in the next one. Here's to that Giants Super Bowl down the line, especially against the Jets. Talked about it in another video. That would be dream Super Bowl Giants-Jets. Give it 5 years. I'm hopeful. See you guys.